phone polls. Tonight we have Rachel Collins from Apex Systems. She's coming to us from North Carolina, so 3-hour difference. Thank you, Rachel, for preparing for this presentation and delivering it. She's really an agile expert who is also an AI knowledgeable expert too. And we're just fortunate to have her tonight. I'll let you kind of introduce yourself a little bit more, Rachel, but I'll turn it over to you now. So if you want to call your presentation up and display it, that'll be great.
Sounds great. Thank you, Bob. Thank you to the Sacramento chapter of the IABA for having me once again. This is my second time with you all. Really enjoyed it the first time as well. So as Bob said, I'm from Apex Systems. I've been with that company for about 3 years now, and I'm a solution leader, and I primarily focus in the agile transformation as well as portfolio and project management and organizational change management spaces. And so in my role, I'm working every day with clients to really understand what are their needs, what are their objectives, and how can we design a custom solution to help them meet those goals. And so I know we were talking about job opportunities. You know, Apex Systems primarily grew up as a staffing company. We are now also becoming more and more well known for our consulting services, which is part of the solutions that I develop. So I encourage anyone on the call tonight, if you may be interested, to just check out our careers page at apexsystems.com. I just checked it out myself and I saw quite a few business analyst positions posted. So check it out, you never know. And also follow us, Apex Systems, on LinkedIn. Oftentimes you'll see recruiters posting opportunities and their names will be attached, so you'll know exactly who you can reach out to if you want to learn more about the role. But I digress. So tonight, what I was really looking forward to having a great interactive discussion with you all about is AI and how we in the business analyst profession can really use it to our advantage to stay relevant. I know that, you know, AI has now kind of been a hot topic for probably at least a year at this point, if not more. And certainly several of you may already feel kind of, you know, just bored or fatigued of hearing about it. So if that resonates with you and you still chose to join tonight, thank you for joining. I hope that we can give you something new to take away. And if you're one of those people who's maybe still cautious or not quite sure how you might be able to leverage it to your advantage to help you in your day-to-day, I also hope that tonight you will come away feeling more comfortable with being able to leverage AI in new ways. And so part of what I hope to do is have some interaction and do some experimentation together. So for those of you who also may be experts in this, I encourage you to openly participate, suggest ideas, help anyone on the call tonight who may have some questions. And if you do have questions, don't be shy, put them in the chat or just interrupt me and raise your hand. I don't need to be taking up the entire time with my voice. I would love it to be interactive and hear from each of you. So without further ado, let's get into it. What we're going to cover, first, I'm just going to give you a couple of key trends, and fair warning, I did some research on this and I'm not finding a whole lot that's specifically relevant to business analysis, but I do think that there are a couple things that are worth noting in general as it relates to the economy, the job market, and AI as a whole, no matter what your profession might be. And then I'm going to go into some prompting tips and ideas, and very specifically some ideas that align with the BABOK. So hopefully these are things that you'll be able to put to use in your day-to-day, in your work and professional lives. And then we're going to play. So I'll be prepared to bring up an AI chatbot and we can play together. So this is where I definitely hope we're going to get a lot of interaction. I will briefly touch on some ethical considerations. I know in the earlier portion of tonight when we were doing some networking, someone brought up bias, and I will touch on that. I think it's important, at least for all of us, to recognize some of these things that we might want to watch out for if we choose to use it, and how we can maybe get around or mitigate some risk as it relates to those considerations. Then I'll give you an action plan. So some really, I think, specific steps that you can take if you're really concerned or really care maybe about, I want to make sure that I stay relevant in this profession and in this career. So how can I stay on top of this and make sure that I'm using it to my advantage? And then lastly, I've compiled a list of resources. And as Bob mentioned, we will share this afterwards. So you'll have this and be able to visit all of those resources, but just various places that you can go to learn more and continue your own learning journey as it relates to AI, and in particular around the business analysis profession. All right. By the way, I don't know if I'll see the chat while I'm sharing my screen. So if someone could call out if there is a question that might be in there, that would probably help me a lot. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
I can
can
do that.
monitor it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I found it. Okay, good. But yes, please do call out and interrupt me. All right. So let's just quickly talk about some key trends, just some things to keep in mind. First one, and this is something I referenced when I just kicked us off here, because I know some people are worried and concerned that, hey, is AI going to replace my job? And what I hope that you can all take away from tonight is the answer is, I don't think so. I think that if we can learn to leverage it appropriately, we can become much more efficient and ultimately much more productive. And we can also recognize that there are certain soft skills that we can continue to hone, things like communication and that interpersonal connection with others that AI simply can't replace yet, and hopefully won't be able to ever truly replace, that I think is what makes each and every one of us valuable. So keep that in mind. I don't think that we necessarily or our profession is going anywhere, but we can absolutely get on top of this trend to use it to our advantage. The next one is just interesting in that a recent survey, so this happened last year by the World Economic Forum, found that about 40 companies believe that about 42% of tasks will be fully automated by 2027. I was actually surprised that this number wasn't higher. But again, this was a survey from a year ago, so it'd be interesting to know, has that perception changed? And where are we at today? I don't know that answer in terms of how many tasks are fully automated, but something to definitely keep an eye on, and for all of us to think about, what can I automate in my day-to-day that will make me more efficient and more productive so that I can focus on bringing more value to my organization. Another one is that, and I think this one makes a lot of sense, 64%, business owners believe that AI will increase productivity by about 64%. And I know this one is kind of a broad, almost vague, statement. How do we really classify or quantify that? It's going to vary a lot depending on your industry, depending on your specific role. But again, if we think about the automation aspect, the efficiency, if we're saving ourselves time, then potentially we're going to be able to output more than we were previously. So that's, I think, a huge opportunity area for us to really think about. This is something that can make not only my life better, but my organization recognize the value that I bring every day. And then lastly, this one I think is not as surprising, but definitely a big number. So 92% of organizations said that they plan to invest in AI-powered software this year, 2024. And this was a Gartner study that was done earlier in the year. So I think the takeaway here is, if you are working in an organization, it is very likely that you may have already encountered AI in your day-to-day, or at least your organization is talking about it. How can we incorporate it? Meaning, I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So I really hope that through tonight's discussion, but also through your own continuous learning journeys, you'll feel comfortable with at least how to use it in a generic way. We may not all be data scientists, but that's okay. I think getting comfortable and knowing how to use it appropriately is really what is the key takeaway here. Any questions or comments before I keep going? Do any of these really resonate with you, shock you? or maybe don't shock you at all?
So far, there's nothing in the chat.
All right.
Yeah, the 92% seems high considering it's already August of 2024.
Right. Karina said, I'm surprised at the low percent for the task automation. Yeah, same here. I thought it'd be higher. And productivity increase seems very blue sky. Agreed. Yeah. And what are the new systems? Sorry, what new systems is that from one of these, or that was from Christina? Software. Yeah, AI powered software. I mean, there are so many out there. I think a lot of these various software as a service companies, the big names that we might be familiar with, are already starting to incorporate it. One that comes to mind is Atlassian. Certainly, yeah, Databricks probably has one. I'm not as familiar or a user of Databricks, but I'm sure there's something, if not already, there might be something in their pipeline. Salesforce, ServiceNow, obviously Google, Microsoft, all of these big names are coming out with AI powered software. And so if your organization uses products from any of those companies, it's very likely that if you haven't already begun interacting with that you may in the very near future. All right. Well, we'll keep it moving. So now I want to talk about some prompting tips. And by the way, I don't know if I consider myself an expert, but I'm just going to give you some things that I have found have helped me. And you'll notice that throughout these examples, I'm referencing Copilot, which is Microsoft's AI chatbot. It does run on OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. So if you use any chatbot, I mean, you can really leverage a lot of these tips. I don't think it's dependent on which one that you use. But in general, these are some different things that I've done that I've noticed have given me better results. So the first one is be specific. So when you're asking for information, the more detail and the more context that you can provide in your prompt or in your query is going to get you a more detailed and specific response. Can you repeat the software you used? Oh, so Microsoft's Copilot is what I'm using most often, and that's because I have access to it through my work account. I do sometimes also use ChatGPT, but I have found pretty minimal difference in my own user experience between the two. So be specific with your prompts, give it a lot of information, a lot of context, so that you're getting hopefully the response that you need or that you're looking for. So the example I'm giving here is if you ask it, help me with my project. I know that's a very vague statement, but you could get a lot of different types of responses with it. You can say, maybe help me create a project timeline for this software development project. And you might say, we have a target launch date of December 2024. We have this type of, software developers working on the team. We have these other constraints or dependencies. As many details as you can provide it, it's only going to benefit you because that chatbot is going to take all of that and synthesize that information and that data, crawl all of its knowledge base and the data sets that it's been provided with to come up with something very customized to recommend to you in order for you to use. What's the difference between ChatGPT and Copilot? So ChatGPT is really the product that a lot of us have heard of and interact with, but it was built using a software called I may be misspeaking here, but I'm pretty sure Microsoft's Copilot also uses OpenAI. So think of it as like the Wikipedia for AI. So you might use one, you might use both. For me, they have similar user experiences. So I really don't have a preference. It's really, if I'm on my work computer, I'm going to use Copilot. And if I'm on my personal computer, I'm going to use ChatGPT. Cool. All right, the next tip that I have, you can specify the tone and the role when you're giving AI chatbots a prompt. So for example, you can to me with a very positive tone or maybe a very professional tone. You can also say, I want you to write this as if you were a project coordinator, as if you were a senior business analyst, as if you were an executive. You can even tell it, I want you to write this for an executive audience. Those type of contextual details are also going to impact the results that you're going to get. So play around with tone and role. I have found that to be very useful if perhaps I ask it a question and it gives me a response that's, it's in the right direction. It's generically what I was looking for, but maybe sometimes it's just, maybe it's over the top and way too flowery, and I'll ask it to make it more casual. Or sometimes it's way too casual and I'll say, make that more professional. So play around with those types of things as well. Contextual information, this is sort of, in the same realm as being specific, but let's imagine that you have AI, Copilot, or other tools enabled at work, and you might have missed a meeting because you were double booked. If that meeting was recorded and transcribed and your organization has Copilot enabled, you can ask it later on, hey, I want you to summarize that meeting that I missed at 2 p.m. Tell me what the action items were, tell me what the decisions were made, and tell me if I need to follow up with any next steps. So give it that context of, it was today, it was at 2 p.m. You might have to tell it which meeting if you were double booked, but hopefully, just giving it those sort of specific details is going to narrow down its focus in what it's going to give you as your response. Next is iterate. So a lot of times what you get may not be exactly what you were hoping for. So one of the really cool things about these chatbots is that you can basically have a conversation with it, meaning you ask it a question, it's going to give you a response. You might not like it exactly. You don't have to start all over from scratch. You can kind of continue the conversation with it. So just like I mentioned earlier when I said, oh, it gave me a response that was way too flowery, I can go back to it and say, make that more casual. That's all I have to do. It's going to automatically recognize. I'm not necessarily asking it to start a brand new topic or asking it something completely out of the blue. It's pretty good at recognizing whether you're continuing or you have a new topic. So try it out. If you don't like what you get, ask it to try again. You might also just say, oh, well, that's good, but can you give me some more options? Can you give me 10 alternative options? If you tell it a specific quantity, it's going to go ahead and generate 10 options for you. You can leverage it for routine tasks. I do this a lot. I'm sure many of you have started doing it as well. If you need to write an email and you are concerned about the way that your tone might be perceived, or you are concerned about, oh, I'm not sure if this is really the right thing to say to this audience, you can use it to help you. So what I will do is I will draft the generic message that I'm trying to send. I'll input it and I'll say, hey, can you help this be more succinct? Can you also make it more professional? Or can you make sure that this doesn't sound rude? And it'll give me other options. So play around with it to help you in your day-to-day. I know I used to spend sometimes, I don't know, probably 30 minutes or more just trying to make sure that my communications were exactly right. I don't have to do that anymore. I'm really just using it to make what I need to say even better. And I'm second guessing myself a lot less. So try it for that. Try it for summarizing documents or even summarizing emails. You can even ask it, if you took a week of PTO, hey, summarize all the meetings that I missed, summarize all the emails in my inbox from the last week. Is there anything specific? Are there any upcoming deadlines mentioned in those emails that I need to get on top of? So have it be almost like your personal assistant. You can ask it for examples. So if, let's say, you're in a situation at work and somebody, asks you to develop, I'm going to use the example of an epic hypothesis statement or a lean business case. And you might say, oh gosh, I don't know. I've never seen one of those before. I don't know what they look like. I don't even know where to start. You can say, give me an example of a lean business case. Give me an example of an epic hypothesis statement, and it will. And guess what? If one isn't enough, you can say, can you give me more examples? Can you give me references? Where can I go to learn more about these things? And it'll give you actual sources that you can go visit on the web to find out even more about what you're looking for. So you can use it to almost do research in the way where we might have used to just use a Google search and have to scroll through all different results and links. Now it's going to suggest to you what it thinks you're really looking for. Again, give it as much context and detail as you can, and hopefully that's going to save you a lot of time. Brainstorming. This one I think is a lot of fun. For example, if you have an upcoming team building event and you want to, come up with some new icebreakers, maybe you need some fun names for a new product that your organization is developing. Maybe you want to ask it to come up with ideas for, hey, in your personal life, my best friend is having a baby and I want some fun things to do at the baby shower. You can use this in so many different ways. You can ask it to create a meal plan for you and your family of 4 for the week. You can tell it what your allergies are or what your dietary preferences are. You can tell it how long you want to spend cooking each recipe. You can tell it how many leftovers you want to have. And each of these additional contextual details that you give it are just going to help it refine its responses even further. So I really encourage you to try it out, at least for your own personal use, just to get comfortable with it if you haven't, because you'll be surprised at some of those results. I recently took a trip to Turkey, and I had 10 days, but there were 3 different cities that I wanted to visit. And even though that 10 days is kind of a long time, I know that when you're traveling around a big country, it goes fast and you have to be really efficient with your time. So I asked it to create me an itinerary that would fit within those 10 days, considering travel time, considering some of my own travel preferences. And what it came out with was actually really good. I was surprised. There was one city where I really wasn't familiar with some of the sites and what I should go do or should go see. And so it helped me kind of narrow down where I wanted to prioritize the time that I had. Hopefully these ideas are starting to inspire you so far. I don't see anything else in the chat, but anyone have any fun ways that they've used it for their personal lives, if not professional lives?
Yeah, my wife uses it a bunch, and she has said that it can be useful to have it tell you the answer in a certain number of sentences,
Yes.
and it will vary depending upon the number of sentences you ask for it to tell you it in. So you could get some interesting information that way.
So true. Sometimes I'll ask it a question and it gives me way too much. And I'm like, I just need 2 sentences. Or please give that to me in bullet point form, or please give that to me in paragraph form.
Right.
You can even ask it to give it to you in a table. Sometimes I'm looking for very specific ways to look at information, even calculations. I actually have a couple tables I'm going to show you in a minute that I used AI to help me generate.
Interesting. Hadn't crossed my mind.
Yeah. I see Rosanna has their hand raised.
Yeah, I actually used it in a fun way. I was doing a data visualization, but I wanted some representational data that was representational of HCAHPS, patient experience data, and I needed it like basically a persona. It was able to give me a sample data set that was very representational of a very contextual question with what I was asking. And then I just wanted a very small sample data set, and it was able to generate that in Excel format that I could then turn into a visualization to explain just a concept I was trying to explain to a client.
And I bet that saved you so much time.
It did, because previously I would have actually come up with said, if I couldn't use I can't use certain people's data. I have to, because it's their data. And so I have to change it to protect people. So anyway, so
Right.
it very much saved me a lot of time, because it was amazingly instantaneous, and it gave me a downloadable Excel file.
Yes, I love that. That's a great example. Maybe we can play with something like what you said you did in a minute here. All right. We got a lot in the comments too. So I was in a master's program. My classmates had success using elicit.ai to find relevant academic journals. That's cool. I haven't tried that one, but I'm going to check it out now. I gave the scope, objective, business requirement, and asked it to gather stakeholder requirements. Yeah, absolutely. I have a use case like that in the next table that I'll show you. And that's similar, I think, to what Rosanna said, where you give it kind of that persona that you're looking for, and what would their requirements be in this scenario. Book summaries with more refinement per chapter, absolutely. Ooh, created an activity diagram using Lucidcharts AI. It was 50% correct. See, hey, even if it was 50% correct, that is still better than starting from scratch in some cases, right? Because at least you have a starting point, and then you can tweak what you don't like or what you don't think is going to work. I love that, Vineeth. Jeffrey, I know it's faster, but I worry it will stunt people's ability to do them without using AI. That's a great consideration, and it's one of the ethical considerations that I considered adding, but I didn't, because I didn't want to discourage people from trying it and getting comfortable. You know what? I think your concern is real, Jeffrey. I think it could, but the message that I hope that people take away is that I don't think that we should let AI replace human judgment and critical thinking. I will always advocate that whenever you're using it, you need to trust but verify, you need to validate, you need to go check sources, especially if you're looking for statistics and specific data. All the stats I showed you all on the first slide, I had to do a lot of digging to find out where those actually came from. And in some cases, AI was giving me results about statistics that as I went to those sources, I'm like, this is not accurate. That's not at all what this article said. That's not at all what this study measured. You have to go do that digging yourself, but it will save you time, at least with getting started. So that is something that I really appreciate. How long did it take you to adopt it? I think that's an interesting question. I think I'm just naturally curious. So when ChatGPT started making the news, I was curious and I just wanted to play with it and find out. And I found, oh, this is pretty cool. And then, I started actually working on a book, and I realized I can have this help me. And it's not that I'm asking it to write the book for me, but I'm asking it to help me think about maybe different ways that I can phrase this. Help me think about different ways that I can convey this thought, or maybe condense this paragraph or expand on this paragraph. And then again, reading through the results that it gives me to make sure, is this actually what I want to say? Do I actually agree with this perspective? That's important, but I look at it as something helping me, almost like an editor would if you had a real person being your book editor, or if you had an assistant. So, to adopt it, I would say for me, it didn't take long. I'm still learning myself. I'm still finding new ways to use it. And I love that already some of you are sharing ways that you have used it. I think that's very inspiring. So keep it coming. Have you used it to analyze free-form comments from a survey, like thousands of comments? If yes, how accurate was the analysis? You know, I have played around with Copilot for Microsoft Forms, and they do have, and I don't think that this technology is that new, but how many of you have heard of what like a word cloud is? It basically just takes the most commonly repeated words in free-form text boxes, and the ones that were used the most are going to be huge in like this giant cloud of words. So they'll have, you know, words that are small and words that are very large. And the larger it is, the more people used it. So that's what I've done, but you could also use it, and I haven't played with this, just to get maybe a general sentiment or maybe common themes. But I think I might need to export the data from the survey first into a document, and then you can upload documents to Copilot and ask it to analyze. So I've done that as well. I had GPT rewrite SOPs as a pirate. Oh my gosh, I am sure that was hilarious. Jamie, please tell me, did you actually submit them through document control, and did anyone stop them?
It was actually probably one of the most entertaining days I've had in a long time. It renamed roles. So like an engineer was a swashbuckler.
Oh,
It was amazing. I highly recommend doing that at least once. Just, you know, take something that's so serious and boring and dry that you see every day, plug it in as a pirate or whatever.
yeah.
It recreates it and gives it a different, it's just fun. It was a lot of fun. And no, I didn't submit it to doc control. I think they would have had a heart attack, honestly. But you know.
Well,
It
I
was
love that. Yeah, you can have so much fun with it. You can ask it to respond to you in a poem format, maybe, or a haiku. You can ask it to create a song. I even had one person, she was doing some communications for an upcoming project launch in our organization, and she asked it to rewrite the words and the rhythm of the Macarena, but to make this like fun announcement about this new technology that we were rolling out, and I thought that was really clever.
So is the Macarena stuck in everybody's head after that?
That's an interesting question, because when I first was reading the announcement, I didn't hear the Macarena in my head. I heard something else. I don't remember what it was, but I didn't realize that it was the Macarena right away. Jay, validate user stories to ensure it fits invest criteria. That is a great use case. Absolutely. Elicitation questions by providing high-level requirements. Yes. What kind of non-functional requirements should I document? Absolutely. Rosanna, it will sometimes provide bogus sources, so I agree. Yes, always check, you know, if it's giving you a response, ask it to give you the source of that information, and then go look, make sure that it's actually summarizing that data accurately. How long have you used it? I would say I've probably been using AI tools for maybe over a year now. All right, we'll keep going, but feel free to keep throwing out other fun use cases. Other prompting tips or other ways that you can use this, you can use it to stay updated. So if you want to know the latest trends in project management, in business analysis, if you want to know the latest trends on the upcoming election, if you want to know the latest trends on pretty much whatever, like styles for grooming your dog's hair, you can ask it those questions and it's going to give you a response. Again, check that response, make sure that it's giving you accurate sources and information, but you can use it that way, almost to help you just stay up to date and get some initial research done. You can ask it to combine multiple tasks. So this is one where I would say if you need to do two things at once, you can ask it to do two things. It's not going to necessarily get confused by that question. So you can say, please give me 10 ways that I can use AI as a business analyst, and please give it to me in a table format, and please align those use cases to the Babok. It will do that for you. It can do all of that in one request. You don't have to ask it separate requests. Does it cite sources? Usually, yes, it will show you where it's pulling that information from. But again, sometimes if you click that link and you read it, you might find, I don't think it summarized this information accurately. So sometimes I might go back and say, can you double check that? Again, continuing the conversation, and it will oftentimes, say, I'm so sorry, I was mistaken. Here's the correct source. Can you import files into AI? Yes, you can. So with Copilot at least, and I know with ChatGPT, if you have a paid subscription, you can import files. And so an example of how you might use that is I had a Word document that really outlined some key points that I wanted to include on a client proposal, but I really wanted it to be in a PowerPoint format. So I uploaded the Word document and I said, can you please get me started with a PowerPoint presentation based on this document? And it did a pretty decent job. I did have to make a lot of tweaks. I had to trim down a lot of slides because it would create one slide sometimes for each and every bullet point. But it's a great way to at least get started. And also it came up with some pretty cool images and graphics that I could use. And because they were AI generated, I wasn't necessarily worried about, citing the source of those images other than saying these are from Copilot or from ChatGPT. With Copilot, you might have a word limit. That is true. I have encountered error issues where sometimes I'm giving it too many characters and it won't process my response. It doesn't happen to me often, but I will say in those cases, you have two options. One is you could break up your input. Usually when that happens, I'm feeding it like several paragraphs and I might be asking it to condense the paragraphs. Instead, maybe I'll give it 1 or 2 paragraphs at a time and follow up that way. The other option that you have is you can upload your document and ask it to maybe summarize your document into 10 sentences or 2 paragraphs, for example. It provided academic sources for me that did not exist when I searched for them. Yeah, exactly. Definitely, definitely trust and verify before you use anything, because you want to make sure that you're doing your research too. It shouldn't replace us humans. It can help get us started though. All right, last tip here, you can give it feedback. And I think I kind of touched on this already. If you don't like what it gives you, tell it why you didn't like it and ask it to try again. So, hey, can you just, elaborate on this point? Can you make that piece shorter? Hey, can you replace question number 3? I didn't like question number 3. I used AI today to create the quiz that we are going to take at the end of this session. And I asked it to create a quiz based on this presentation. It came up with 5 questions that were multiple choice. That was part of my prompt. But I didn't like 2 of the questions that it gave me because they weren't good questions in my opinion. So I asked it to try again. And in that case, it actually gave me the exact same 2 questions again. So I said, all right, whatever, I'm going to write my own questions. A workaround for the word limit is using a screenshot of the prompt that's written out and it uses less tokens. Oh, that's an interesting way to do it. Okay. I haven't tried that, but we could try that tonight. What is the Menti login code? I think that's a question for Steve, if you have that. All right, we're going to keep going. So I promised you that I used it to ask for a very complex result, and I gave it like 3 instructions at once. This was that. I asked it to come up with use cases and prompts and organize them according to the Babak knowledge areas. So my prompt was create a list of use cases for business analysts, as well as corresponding prompts to use AI in their day-to-day, and organize that by the Babak knowledge area and put it into a table format and put the Babak knowledge area column first and merge the cells that have more than one prompt or use case. I gave it all of that and I got this. Granted, I didn't get the pretty blue formatting, I did that in PowerPoint. But it did give me a table that I could easily export to an Excel file, copy into PowerPoint, and format it like this. So that's just to illustrate to you that you can give it those very complex prompts and instructions with multiple pieces of, a request all in one, and you can get what you want. Or if maybe you forgot to tell it that I want the Babcock knowledge area column to be the first column, you can follow up with its, when it gives its first response, and you can say, oh, reformat that table to put the Babcock knowledge area column first, and it'll do it. So these are what I hope we can play with, but we can play with other things too. A lot of you already suggested some great ideas or ways that you've used it. So what I'd like you all to do maybe is take a screenshot of this. Go ahead. And by the way, we're sending this out, so don't worry, you're going to have it. But right now, take a screenshot of these prompts and use cases, because I want you to be able to take a look at them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up Copilot and we're going to play. And I want you all to just feel free to shout out, like, what do you want us to put in? Let's see what it gives us, and let's see if we might want to refine some of the results together. So let me stop sharing this. Hopefully you all took a screenshot. I'll give you a couple more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, taking it down. You got your screenshots. Let me pull up Copilot. All right, here it is. You can see we were playing around earlier today before the session officially got started with utility pole images. We were also playing around with cats with human hair. We had a lot of fun. All right, who has a prompt that they would like to play with first?
I do.
Go for it. What do you want to use?
Create a table for logical access controls, mapping HIPAA, NIST, SOC 2.
Am I spelling that
SOX.
correctly?
Yeah, and SOX.
SOC
No, SOC 2
and
SOX.
SOX.
Mhm.
So HIPAA, HIPA, NIST, NST.
And NI,
Okay.
and then HIPAA with another A at the end.
Okay. All right. Create a table for logical access controls mapping HIPAA, NIST, SOC 2, and SOX. Are you good with that one?
Mhm.
All right. Let's see what we get. Oh, crud. Okay. My chat has expired. So here's what I do. Just start again. I copied the prompt. Here we go. You can see it coming up. Hopefully it's looking good so far. I don't know anything about this topic, so you'll have to tell me what you think of these results.
Okay, so we got to revise it,
Okay.
and we want to do it for IT compliance. Okay, one more tweak to it.
Okay. Oh, it's still going. Okay.
Okay, we want to add one more requirement for the data
Okay.
to be patient records.
How's it looking?
Very good. That's like a wow, I'm wowed.
Okay.
I'll probably use this tomorrow.
Yeah, go for it. I can export this to Excel so you can all see what that looks like. I'm happy to send you this Excel file in case
Okay.
you want it, but you could also go replicate that again. So this is what you would get when you export to Excel. So it's not automatically formatted as a table, but that's easy enough. So I can do insert table. And yes, my table does have headers, and voila. So yeah, I'll keep that open if you want me to send it to you.
Okay.
Who else has something they want to play with? And it can be fun. It can be work related, but it could also be, personal fun stuff too. You can look at the screenshot. Any of those prompts resonate with you? I'll grab one
Somebody
if
put
not.
in the chat, write a country song about chickens living in a big city with an upbeat tone.
Oh, all right. I love it. Here, copy and paste. Let's do it. Now, the funny part is I don't know the tune or the melody to this, so we'll have to make one up.
Has to be a country song. I'm
That's
thinking.
right. Rewrite that. I don't know if anyone knows the song Tipsy by Shabuzi. It's all over the radio right now. Let's just see what it does. Copyright restrictions. Okay. Similar vibe. All right, well, that's fun. Please ask the question, how accurate are your responses? Okay, I will ask this question, but we're probably going to get a pretty, broad answer. So let's just see what we get. My responses are only as accurate as the information I have access to. There may be errors or outdated information. It's always good to double check with sources or consult a professional. All right, ask it for sheet music, key, or notes for it. Oh, for the song, okay. Going back to that country song, can you create sheet music for it? That's an interesting one I haven't tried before. Let's see what it gets. Oh, okay, it's giving at least the chords that we can use. Can you create guitar tab?
How neat.
If anyone knows how to play the guitar, now you have a song about country chickens. All right, here's a good one. Create a process diagram for pulling cash from an ATM. I'm really curious to see because I haven't actually asked it for process diagrams yet. I think, yeah, this is what I expected. So it gives you a step-by-step approach. And then it gives you this visual representation, which I think it's a good start. But if you actually wanted to use, the official shapes on a process diagram, you might need to, we can try refining it and say, which process diagram shapes would I use for each step?
Can you ask it to create a process diagram? See if it does
Yeah, I'll ask it again, but I think it's kind of limited. Oh, new topic. Yeah.
But that in itself, just popping out the process steps, is like 90% of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great way to get started.
So for the diagrams, I think Lucidchart would be great.
Yeah, I haven't played with Lucidchart. I don't think I have a license to that, but has anyone else done? I think somebody in the chat said they have. Was that you, Vineeth?
Can you
Actually,
ask it?
I had a license. I used like a free version for 7 days, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And I played it around.
Cool.
Can you ask it to create a Visio diagram and see what it says?
Sure.
There was information in the chat that you might be better off with the XML for the .io. I forgot exactly what he asked there, but that looked like it was pretty good. Hang on one second.
I found it.
There we go.
Oh, look at this. Well, that is fancy schmancy. Thanks, Michael.
I don't know if that'll work, but theoretically, you just save that as a text file, and then you could open it at the website draw.io.
Let's try it. All right, so let me copy all of this. Oh, I'm kind of frozen. Uh-oh. Here we go. Copy. Decide later. All right, now help me because I've never used this tool before. Where would I
I'd
paste
say
it?
just save a text file. I think you
Oh.
got to make the text file separately, and then you're going to open it in draw.io.
I see. So like open my notepad on my
Or
desktop
actually, how
here.
about this? Do file save, because I don't remember what extension it wants either. But if you just do save as, right? And then yeah, wherever that saves it. So put that somewhere, and then you'll open that XML file, paste in what you got, and then we'll see if it did anything good or not.
Well, I didn't paste anything in here.
No, you got to open up. So the XML file that it just saved,
Okay.
and go find that,
All right.
and you're gonna right click and you open with Notepad or whatever.
Okay. I'm frozen again. Waiting. Computer processing error. I think I'm trying to do too much.
So where did it save that file to?
My desktop, but I'm just having trouble getting there.
You can't even get to your desktop.
Yep, it's thinking. Okay, here we go. See, I'm learning stuff too. This is fun. Okay, now I just double clicked the file and it's just asking me how I want to open this file. So I'm going to select
just open it
Notepad.
with like text editor. Yeah.
Okay, here it is.
And then just so replace that with what it gave us, the whole thing. Whoops.
To
That's
Copilot
not
here.
There we
This?
go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just replace this entire text with that?
Yep.
All right. And then save
Save.
this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then see if we got to go back. I don't know if we got to reload it or if we got to say open the file. Yeah, to file open.
Okay.
Open from where it is.
Ooh.
Wow.
There you go.
Hey, this is a great start.
Right, I just did all your work for you.
Yeah.
Why
Very
there
cool.
are why there are no decision points here?
Good question. I think if we asked it to give us decision points in our prompt, we could try again and just see what it would give us.
Well, the question was actually very specific to pull money. So you could refine that and tell it how much money you wanted to do. That might involve a decision.
Okay. So create me XML code for draw.io for a process to withdraw $100 from an ATM. Be sure to include decision points in this process. How's that?
That's good.
Okay. So now it's probably going to give me new code. Just got to wait for it to finish generating and then I'll copy it and we'll repeat.
Nice. It even marks the optional.
I'm impressed just looking at what I'm seeing here already. This is great. And I really didn't even know about draw.io before, so thank you. Oh my goodness, it's giving me a lot. I wish I could tell it, finish faster. But I don't want to interrupt its flow, so we'll let it keep going. And then in the meantime, if anyone has more they want us to play with, feel free to put it in the chat while we're waiting. Oh my.
This will be interesting.
Yeah. Definitely a lot more than I expected, but I don't want to stop it. Okay, we're almost there. Here we go. Okay. Copy, put into this notepad file. I'm gonna get rid of all of that. I'm gonna save it again. And then I'm going to open from device. Oh, okay. So it did a little bit more. You see we do have a decision point here. I was expecting it to look a lot different than it did the first time, given how much extra code it wrote, but this is still pretty good. What do you think?
I'm actually impressed because having the steps, creating a diagram when you already have the steps saves you like a ton of time.
Yeah. I mean, even just to draw a pretty basic process ourselves, I know that would take me at least a good 15 minutes just to add the shapes and align them all, make them look nice. Okay, so Chris, Jamie put AI diagram designer on ChatGPT came up with this. This is great. Wow.
How did you import the file again? The flat file?
So what we did was I copied the code from the response and I put it onto the plain notepad file. I saved it. It's on my desktop. And then in draw.io, I went to File, Open From, Device, and then I selected it from my desktop and open.
It's saved as an XML file, so that's the key to it. You have to make sure it has that extension.
Good
and
point.
not a text.
Cool.
Where are we here?
That was impressive. I'll have to
Yes.
admit.
This looks really cool. So
Great.
Jamie, you said this was AI diagram designer on ChatGPT. Is that a paid product? I didn't even know that that was possible. Oh, you there, Jamie?
Actually, I'm sorry. It is paid. I pay.
Okay.
I am one of those people who pay for my ChatGPT.
I mean, this is beautiful.
I use it every single day. I have for probably since we could pay for it, honestly. It's I cannot live without it. It's addicting, honestly.
Yeah. This is so cool. Now, when you got this output, are you able to manipulate it in any way? For example, put it into Visio or draw.io?
I don't think you would be able to do that. It's just a basic image.
I see.
But depending on whatever GPT you're using, it could actually give you different prompts to customize it. However, the way that you went about the draw, the one that you were just doing, I think that is probably better for getting better detailed. Like I don't know. The one that GPT came up with is just kind of, it gives you a good idea at least, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting to look at. That's a really funky chart, honestly.
It is, but I think it definitely has more detail than what we got from
fundamentals,
this.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we've just come up with some interesting ways that we could, swim lane diagram. Ooh, that's a fun use case. All right, we want to create a swim lane diagram for what? Who's got some fun ideas? For
car wash.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Our detail.
Oh, and it's doing it for the, okay, so notice I didn't tell it to give me XML, but it's considering that I'm continuing on in the conversation. So it made an assumption that this is what I wanted. When I gave it that prompt, I actually wasn't thinking about asking for XML, but I'm glad that it did, because now I can use that draw.io tool, the trick that we did, and let's see if it looks like a swim lane. But I did want to know if it would give me a swim lane view in what it can generate, but it probably would have looked like a table. So let's see. All right. This is so much fun. Let's go back here. File save. File open from device. Open. Let's see. Oh, I wonder if it's, let me start a new one. Let me make sure I copy and pasted the code correctly. Create. No.
If you save the code, you can just open.
Yeah, I thought I did. Let me just start over. Copy. Save.
Did you save it as an XML or did you save it as text? Right there.
Well, maybe that's why. Well, there's no
You
XML
just need,
option.
all you need to do is change it, just add a .xml.
Okay.
No, well,
Get rid of the TX.
that's all right. It should still work.
Okay, let's see. Oh, this is not bad. It's not quite a swim lane, but it kind of got us started. We might have to manipulate it a little bit more to really show the distinction in the swim lanes here, but it's a start. All right, Steve's given us a time check, so I'm gonna stop with the fun stuff, because I hope that that was inspiring and that you had some fun, because I did. But let me just finish up here. A few more things I wanted to share with all of you. Thank you so much for playing with me and teaching me some things. That was even more than I bargained for. All right, so let me get this presentation back up. All right, so we did our experimentation. By the way, Copilot generated this image for me, so that was fun. And then, all right, I promised you a couple of ethical considerations. So these are just things I would just encourage you all to be aware of. It has been proven that there is some bias in AI models. That is because the data that it is trained with may be inherently biased by the folks who are loading it or who are using it. And so it's really important when you are reviewing results that you consider all the different potential user types, audiences, and that you're getting a fair representation. We are not the people oftentimes actually training these data models. We are not the data scientists. We are just the users in most cases. So we don't necessarily have control over how it's been trained, but we do have control over what we choose to use, how we choose to represent it. So to the best of your ability, try to validate that it is showing a fair and diverse data set in its results. You can audit it. You can also ask for help auditing it from your peers, from people who represent different populations, just to ensure that you are getting good results. The next consideration for all of you is be careful about inputting sensitive data. So I use it a lot at work. We have licenses at work and we are allowed to do that as long as we are logged in with our work accounts. But I would really encourage you to shy away from using specific people's names, specific client names in some cases, even your own organization's name. Try to just be a little bit more generic in that sense, where you don't need to use personal information or company information. So that's what I mean when I say scrub your prompts. don't just copy and paste sensitive company data, but you can ask it more general questions without specifying, who is this really about? And make sure you understand your organization's policy. If you don't know if your organization has a policy, then I would encourage you to ask your HR department or your communications department, or even your IT department. But do be careful, use caution. You want to make sure that you're following with those guidelines and that you're protecting yourself and your organization. And then lastly, this relates to one of the questions that was in the chat about, is it going to maybe make people not use their brains as much? And potentially. So that's really why I'm just asking you all to consider that I don't think we should use it as a replacement for our own judgment. We can use it as a tool, as an assistant, as an editor in some cases, but we should still be taking the time to review the results that it gives us. Do we agree with those results? Do we see any reason why those results may be erroneous or inaccurate? They might be out of date. They might be incorrectly cited. Those sources might not be credible. So please use it as a tool, use it to help save you time, build those process diagrams, but then let's make sure we agree with actually what we're using before we actually submit that. And make sure that you in some cases you might need to source, especially according to your organization's policy, you might need to cite that you used that as a source, whether it be that you used Copilot or GPT or DALL-E to generate an image, or that you found this specific statistic from this particular study that was done, etc. So don't forget to cite as well. Just a couple of things to keep in mind. I know we don't have a whole lot of time, so I'll keep going. I also promised you I wanted to give you an action plan for success. So how can you be successful using AI? And I think there's really 4 key themes to take away. The first one is learn to leverage data visualization tools. We didn't get a chance to play around with them at all tonight. But AI and these tools like Tableau and Power BI, so understanding what they can do and being able to really understand data sets that are being generated, your ability to communicate those and to interpret them, to translate them to different audiences are part of the value that you can bring. So that's one recommendation that I would have. Another one is keep that growth mindset going. So find ways that you can stay continuously learning. And I have a lot of resources that I'll share with you to get you started. Another one is adaptability. So by that, I mean, things are always changing. We have to be able to react quickly. And so you can practice applying these AIs into your day-to-day, whether it's at work, whether it's at home. Hopefully I demonstrated some adaptability tonight because you all taught me some things. I didn't know anything about how to save these XML files. I just learned something new. So just be open to trying new things, be willing to experiment, and that's going to set you up for success. And then the last theme here around communication I mentioned earlier is that this is like one of those soft skills, but just because it's a soft skill doesn't mean that it's not valuable. Tools to help you become a better communicator, but at the end of the day, you are what makes your communications unique. You also know your audiences and your stakeholders better than an AI tool does. So use it to your advantage to help you really express yourself in the way that you feel most comfortable and that you know is going to resonate with your stakeholders. And I think that you'll be really surprised with the quality that you can get out of it, and also, of course, the efficiency. All right, last but not least, I've got a ton of resources, so we will share this as well. Some of them have links, others I think you can easily find with a quick search. Obviously, the IIBA has a ton of resources on its website. I couldn't possibly list them all, but a few here. There is a Business Analysis Live podcast where they've done several different episodes now on ways that AI can help or impact our profession. There's also a book that's recommended called Future Proof. And then also the IIBA Knowledge Hub, I think was mentioned at the very beginning before we kicked off this session. It's a new way that you can look up information, and it's almost like IIBA's own AI tool on their website. So check that out. Some other publications, not necessarily from IIBA. I've got 2 books linked here. So Data Science for Business by Foster Provost and Tom Fawcett, and then Artificial Intelligence, A Guide for Thinking Humans by Melanie Mitchell. Check those out if you like the long form reading. Social media, LinkedIn has a ton of groups, obviously IIBA. A couple of other ones you might consider joining are Adaptive US, BA Times, and Modern Analysts. If you are a Reddit reader, there's definitely communities out there. Business Analysis is one of many. The Modern Analyst also has a blog, and then also check out events like, for example, from the PMBA, PM Business Analysis World does all kinds of conferences where AI is always a hot topic. And then last but not least, there are lots of different online learning platforms. Some might be free, some might have a small fee or investment, but if you want to get yourself even more familiar and dive even deeper than what we could do in a session like this, check out these various resources, Coursera, edX, Udacity, or LinkedIn Learning. There's certainly, lots of different rabbit holes you could go down. So hopefully this was valuable. Hopefully you took away something from tonight, whether it be just getting more comfortable, whether it be learning something new or trying something new. And I really enjoyed the experimentation with all of you. I learned something and had a lot of fun too. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah.
Steve, I think you're gonna take over now with the quiz, right?
Yes. So first, thank you, Rachel. That was actually fun, and I'm sorry I had to cut it off because I think we could have gone on for hours. But we'll have the recording online and the presentation with all the resources and links. We'll get that up. But let me share my screen first. I'm going to stop recording.